Hello, welcome back. We're going to look at another read after having just discarded that read from my life forever. Let's go through the questions with a new read. This read is a little bit further along in its life than the first one that I looked at, so let's see what it's doing at this point. Okay, so is it too open or too closed? It is too open. Is it responding or tapering? The answer is no, it is neither responding nor is it tapering. Are the E, F, and C sharps dropping? Not very much. It's pretty strong there. Now, is it sharp or is it flat, generally speaking? Okay, I'm going to say it's slightly on the flat side. A few notes were a little above pitch, but I'm going to say generally it airs a little bit more towards the flat side. Now, is the low register responding very well? Let's find out. The answer is no, it is not. Is it closing up in the high register? It is not. It has strength in the high register, which is good to know. Now, I'm going to say that it is not stuffy and that it is much more on the wild side of the spectrum. So, it is too open, it is not responding or tapering. The E, F, and C sharp are not dropping. It is a little bit on the flat side, I believe I said. Actually, I can't remember right now, so I'm going to do that test one more time. You can do these tests as many times as you need to discern. Let's see. I think the reed is a little bit more on the flat side, I believe. So, once again, it is too open. It is not responding or tapering. The E, F, and C sharps are not dropping. It's a little bit on the flat side. The low register is not responding well. It has strength in the high register. It is not closing up, and it is too wild. Okay, now I have to decide what aspects of this reed, playing characteristics, I am going to tackle first. I would like to, of course, deal with the innate, the tip opening issue, as well as the pitch issue first. Okay, now I'm going to try to improve this reed. As we discovered, the reed is too open, so I need to close the tip opening, yet generally speaking, it airs on the flat side of the pitch. So, once again, the way I will manipulate the wires is that I'm going to squeeze the second wire from the sides. This way, it will close the tip opening, and it will accentuate the spine, hopefully thus raising the pitch ever so slightly. So while looking at the tip opening, I am going to squeeze the second wire from the sides, like that. Okay, now, as I said before, I would like to try the reed and see if my alteration has had any effect on it. So I'm going to do that in between each alteration that I make. Okay, so let's see if I can try the reed right now to determine if the tip opening is as I would like it to be. Again, I'm going to do the test for is it too open or too closed. It's actually much improved, much improved. I actually think it's slightly, ever so slightly too closed now, so I am going to open it back up. And there are two ways that I can do that. I can either flatten the second wire, or I can squeeze the first wire. Now, before I do either one of those, I'm curious about the pitch, because I would like to know what that previous alteration did for the pitch. So I'm going to put my tuner on and do the test for is it too sharp or too flat. I'm just going to play a 2-octave F major scale, normally, naturally, and I'm going to see how the reed reacts to it and where it is sitting, generally speaking. Discern the flatness that the reed was displaying beforehand is much improved upon, and it's not that bad. It's actually sitting in a very comfortable place around 440, which is very, very, very good news. What I'm going to do is I am going to open the first wire a pinky toe, a very slight amount, just to make it slightly more comfortable on my lips. I mean, barely anything. This is just a personal preference. That's all I'm going to do. Barely discernible. Now I'm going to try it again. Is the reed too open or too closed? Incidentally, because the wires are reversible, you can go back and forth with the wires as long as you want until you get the tip opening that you desire. Also, as you play on a reed, sometimes the tip opening might change based on the engagement of your embouchure or the quality of the cane. Don't be afraid to adjust those wires as much as you need to get the tip opening that you desire. So I'm going to try it again. Is it reed too open or too closed? I still think it's slightly too closed, so I'm going to open it a tad bit more. Just a tiny little bit. And I'm going to try it again. Is the reed too open or too closed? Actually, it's much better right now. I think this is where I want it to be. Now, I would like to address the question of its wildness. I feel that, once again, if a reed is too wild or uncontrollable, untamed, sometimes my teacher, Ben Kamins, would say it feels big in the mouth. That means, to me, that the taper from center to sides is not strong enough, meaning it does not taper enough from center to sides. So what I would like to do, as I did with the first reed, is accentuate that taper and work in the outer channel areas in the middle third. This is very important. The reason why I pick the middle third of the reed is because, generally speaking, that's usually where my lips lie on the blade of the reed. Therefore, if the taper is from center to sides is not exaggerated enough. That can make the reed feel like it's vibrating too much or uncontrollable, and I would have to use much more embouchure than I'm comfortable doing. So let's see if I can accentuate that taper from center to sides in the middle third to help the wild nature of this reed not be so wild anymore. So once again, I am just going to glide my knife gently around the middle third, the outer channels of the middle third. Once again, I'm just accentuating that spine by making it relatively a little bit heavier. This will also help the flat nature of the reed. Let's see if this helps. I can see just by looking at it that the outer channels are really not tapering very well. So I want to go there and just, as you can see, bring that taper in the outer channels in line with the taper from center to side in the middle of the reed. There. I'm just going to do this on the other side of the reed. Sometimes the knife leaves a little bit of a residue on the cane, or the cane is not so smooth, so I do like to take a very, very, very fine grit sandpaper and just smooth it out. So now I'm going to do that on the other side. Again, I'm not working at the tip because I don't want to touch that just yet, but I'm working in the middle third, so I'm working at this part. Then I move back and I go over the part that I just did so that it's thinner towards the tip than it is here. Then I go back even further and I go over those other parts again, thus ensuring that there is a taper from back to front, which is very important. Now I'm on this other side. Again, note that the knife is not scooping this fashion. There is a straight line from the tip of the knife all the way to my elbow, and my elbow is moving the knife on the pivot of my thumb. This will ensure that there's no scalloping or scooping craters on the blade of the reed, which is very, very, very important. These tapers need to be very straight and very constant. Now I'm going to just smooth it out very, very, very briefly with a very fine sandpaper that barely takes anything off. And I take my wonderful toothbrush and brush off that residue. And now I'm curious to try it again. Usually what I like to do is I like to do the first test when I'm trying it because it allows me to see how the reed is reacting in all of the registers. So once again, I'm going to do the test of is it too open or too closed. And I will say that it is not, plus it feels less wild than it did. So that's a very good thing. Now, I would like to talk about the response and the taper, both in the middle register and in the low register. Let's see if that's been improved upon at all first. Very slightly, as we can discern, the reed is still pretty hesitant in response. Let's see how the low register is doing. The reed is not responding very well. Let's see if we can improve that. Now, to determine how to improve this reed's response, what I'd like to do is to find out where on the reed it's either too heavy or needs to be weakened. So what I like to do is I like to look at the tip opening and close the tip opening between my fingers to see which of the four sides, which of the four quadrants, is collapsing last when I squeeze the reed closed. And to my eyes, this one is a little less collapsy than the other three. So I'm going to try to bring the reed in line with its weakest point. So I'm going to very gently see if I can improve the taper not only from center to sides, but from back to front and from sort of about 5/16 behind the tip diagonally outward on this quadrant because it is collapsing less than the other three. So basically what I'm trying to do is balance the tip. Okay, so what I like to do again, I hold the knife perpendicular to the blade of the reed. I pivot it on my thumb and I let my elbow guide the blade like this. Now as you can see, I'm starting removing cane from the outer reaches of this quadrant because I ultimately want that to be the lightest point ever. So then I move back and I start getting some cane from directly behind it and I go over that place again and I go back even further and I pick up a little bit more cane and again I'm moving diagonally outward, which will hopefully cover the back to front taper and the center to side taper as well as the diagonal taper. Again, I'm just moving back even further to capture a little bit more cane. And we'll see what that did. Again, just gently. I like to go over it to sandpaper just to make sure it's nice and smooth. Okay, now let me try it to see if the response has been improved upon at all. One thing that is very important as you're trying these reeds is that you try the reed on the same orientation each time, meaning that the same blade is on the top or the bottom. Before you start doing this, it's helpful to figure out which orientation you prefer and stick with that one. If you, at some point, you find that you like one orientation better, it's perfectly okay to switch, but make sure as you're trying the reed, after you alter it, you play on it with the same orientation each time. This will help you determine exactly what is changing the reed, your alteration, or whether you change the orientation of the reed. Again, just to get a general feel for how the reed has changed, I do the first step before I do anything else. So I'm going to ask myself, is the reed too open or too closed, and play the B flat major scale. Okay, I still feel that it's a desirable tip opening, so I'm going to keep it there. Now I'd like to see if the response is improved upon. Again, I want to stress that I'm not looking to see if the response is effortless or ideal or as like the best I could ever hope for. I just want to see if I can get it better than it was. Okay, I have my tuner on and I will see if the response is improved upon. I think we can all agree that the response is greatly improved upon, actually. Let's see how the low response is doing. I think we can safely agree that that is also improved upon. Now, one thing I want to know is if I lost any of the strength in the upper register by all of the cane that I removed. So let's see. Let's do that test. Is it closing up in the high register? No, not at all. This is really good news. Now, at this point, I'm inclined to practice on the reed. It's relatively in tune, generally speaking. The response is much improved. The tip opening is as I would like it. It is free blowing in the low register, and it is not closing up in the high register. And it is not too wild anymore. Surely I can practice quite comfortably on this reed and see where it goes from there. So now I'm going to do just that.